welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the Thames Valley. Hours left to save hundreds of ticket offices. Campaigners say losing them would be catastrophic.
People on trains, people on stations are important to us, they're vital. And why should we not be able to access life just because we happen to have a disability?
An uncertain future for this coffee shop in Reading, as its owner says his outgoings look set to increase fourfold and his business is by no means the only one struggling.
Also on the programme, a story we can really get our teeth into, why these discarded dentures have gone on display to customers at an Oxfordshire restaurant.
And once in a blue moon, some incredible celestial snaps from last night. But what's the best way of taking pictures as good as these? Good evening. There are just a few hours left for people to have their say on plans to close hundreds of train ticket offices across the region.
Well, the move has been described as catastrophic for elderly, disabled and vulnerable passengers trying to access the rail network. But rail bosses say 99% of tickets bought in person could have been bought on a machine or online.
153 of the 190 ticket offices at South Western railway stations will close, including Aldershot, Basingstoke and Bracknell. For GWR, 79 of the 201 ticket offices will see reduced opening hours and changes to staffing. Twyford and Reading West will all be affected.
Well, today campaigners marched through London before handing in a petition against the proposals to Downing Street. Juliet Fletcher reports.
Regular train users Lucy and Lynn enjoy meeting up for lunch, but they are concerned about the proposed closure of manned ticket offices.
The ticket type that I use is specifically for wheelchairs. It's not the disabled person's rail card, it's for wheelchair users, and it's not available at any of the online, through the phones, through the ticket machines. It's only available from the ticket office window and the ticket office clerk.
I've been in a wheelchair for 16 years. And I've watched things get better from not being able to go anywhere that involved a long journey because of my wheelchair. You're going to take all that away from me. So I'm sad and I'm angry.
But plans were announced to modernise the railway by closing ticket offices up and down the country. A plan that's not gone down too well with many rail users at stations like this one here in Twyford.
I'm an old-fashioned sort of person and I really like to speak to someone. I much prefer to go to a ticket office rather than go to a machine.
But I usually collect my tickets prepaid or just use my bank card and it's pretty straightforward.
I want to renew, my rail card. If you haven't got the skills, to do that, then you're being penalised because you can't just go into the station and get them renewed. You have to do it all online.
And today others were making their voices heard too. A petition against the proposals was handed in to the Prime Minister at Downing Street. The Rail Delivery Group, a body that works to improve the train network, said just 12% of tickets are bought at offices. The vast majority are bought online or from ticket machines. But concerns have been raised that disabled and older passengers could be severely disadvantaged.
We want our railway to be accessible to everyone and we're looking at other ways which we can make our railway accessible to more and more people. Now what these proposals do is they don't remove staff from stations. There isn't a station that is currently staffed today that will become unstaffed if these proposals were to go ahead. So those staff will still be there and they'll still be on hand to assist those people.
Rail users are being invited to share their views, and so far 500,000 people have done just that. Time is running out though. The consultation ends tomorrow. Juliet Fletcher, ITV News.
Meanwhile, rail passengers are facing yet another weekend of travel disruption as train drivers stage a fresh strike in a row over pay. There will be a very limited service on Great Western and South Western Rail service on Friday as members of the ASLEF union walk out with most parts of the network completely closed. On Saturday, overtime will be banned, the same day that members of the RMT union are striking in an ongoing dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. South Western Railway say they are worried about the long-term impact on rail travel.
I'm really worried. In the period following COVID, we should be focused on getting people onto trains, out of cars and onto trains to use a rail network again and benefit from the connectivity that it brings people. Of course, this industrial action is doing the opposite and in some cases is taking people away from the railways, which is the last things that we want to be doing. So I do hope that we can get it resolved soon enough and that we can really focus on getting people back onto trains.
Oxford scientists have been awarded up to £63 million to develop a vaccine for an unknown disease which could have the potential to lead to a future pandemic. Researchers are looking at adapting the vaccine it created for COVID-19 for disease X, and it could be created within 100 days. They'll also examine how other vaccines can be developed.
An Oxfordshire MP has been promoted in Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's cabinet reshuffle. David Johnston, the MP for Wantage, has been made Junior Education Minister.
Now, it's estimated that Reading will run out of space for new graves within the next 7 years. The council says that unless alternatives are found by 2029, burials won't be able to take place in the town. The authority is working on options, including maximising existing space and creating a new cemetery just outside Reading.
Days before the start of the new term, more than 100 schools are being told to make immediate changes to buildings made with a type of concrete that's prone to collapse. Last month, it was revealed that part of Cranbourne College in Basingstoke had been closed over concerns about the reinforced RAAC concrete. Hampshire Council says temporary works have been carried out at the school to ensure it is safe.
Now, a coffee shop owner in Reading says he's anxious about what the future holds for his business and staff as his outgoings look set to increase fourfold.
Business rents in the town have increased and shops, including Thomas Cook, have disappeared from the High Street, and now Wilko's in Broad Street is under threat.
Well, some small businesses are still getting the financial help offered during the COVID pandemic, but when that comes to an end, they'll be facing much higher bills, and it's feared more shops could have to close their shutters for good. With the story, here's Cara Digby.
Yalo Coffee Shop opened on Cross Street just over 2 years ago. Business is steady right now, but owner Richard is worried about what lies ahead. With help from small business rate relief, Richard is currently paying around £360 a month. But when it stops, he says this will be going up to £1,600 in a couple of years' time.
Well, the automatic response, I think, was, I could actually feel my palms sweating, and you kind of just got to take a really deep breath and then try and think to yourself, well, what are we going to do going forwards? I work 3 days a week for the NHS in order to earn an income. So the shop that I've got behind me, it is breaking even at this point in time. It has broken even for the last 2 years. So it's a constant struggle against the rising costs.
It's not just relief funding coming to an end that means businesses will pay higher rates. The rent value of shops has also gone up in the town centre, which changes how much businesses pay in tax.
We are expecting the hospitality, leisure and retail relief that was introduced for businesses struggling during the pandemic to run out next year. We need to think about how we incentivise the right sort of businesses to keep our town centres vibrant. I think this needs to mean reduced rates for some of those smaller independent businesses, community-led businesses.
On King Street is Jacobs Jewellers, celebrating its 75th year in business. Having benefited from small subsidies the last couple of years, the business rate is increasing here too, meaning they'll be paying 20 to 25% more.
What that means is that we will have less to invest in products, in new things. So we'll cope, but in the long term, it does kind of tie your hands behind your back a little bit.
Reading Council says whilst it administers business rate bills, it doesn't influence changes in rateable values. Any increases are offset by relief, which is set by central government. The Valuation Office Agency also told us that businesses should check their valuations and flag it up if information about their property is incorrect. Cara Digby, ITV News, Reading.
Well, in a statement, a spokesperson for the Treasury said they remain committed to delivering on the business rates review, which they say will cut the average bill with caps to rising bills and more regular property revaluations.
You're watching ITV News Meridian here in the Thames Valley. Thank you so much for watching us. Still to come on our programme. The #1 cause of workplace-related deaths in our region. So why is asbestos still present in around 1.5 million buildings across the country?
And once in a blue moon, the stunning pictures captured right across the region.
And remember, you can find more news from right across the region by heading to our website. Please go to itv.com/Meridian. You can also give us a call. Our number's on the screen. It's 0808 1010 095. And you can follow us. That's on social media.
Next, junior doctors have voted to continue strike action over pay through the winter. For the first time, junior doctors and consultants will jointly walk out for 4 days of industrial action during the autumn, beginning next month. The British Medical Association is calling for a 35% pay rise. The government has offered 6% and an additional one-off payment of £1,250. So far, more than 940,000 hospital appointments and treatments have had to be postponed because of strike action by NHS staff since last December.
Businesses in Brighton could be limited about when they can leave their bins out on roads and pavements. Currently, shops, bars and restaurants in the zone can put their bins out between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. on agreed collection days, but must store them elsewhere at all other times. The City Council has launched a consultation about extending the zone, which was first introduced last year.
Now, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. With the details, here's Gamal Fanbullah.
Schools face closing their doors due to insecure infrastructure. Buildings across the country could be impacted where a weaker concrete was used in their construction. Job cuts expected within the week at Wilko as its rescue deal collapses once again. It's job number 5 in 12 months for Grant Shapps as he becomes Defence Secretary. And why this volleyball match will be etched into history. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Asbestos still remains the #1 cause of workplace-related deaths in our region. And nationwide, more than 5,000 people die each year from asbestos-related diseases.
Well, campaigners are now calling on the government to commit to a removal programme which would see traces of it eradicated from all public buildings within 40 years. Nick Smith reports on how this banned substance still continues to devastate lives.
Nearly a century ago, it was hailed as a wonder material with countless uses.
The remarkable fire-resisting, sound-insulating product known as asbestos, at least 18,000 articles are made of it.
But we now know that breathing in its fibres can have horrific consequences, and asbestos must be removed where it poses an exposure risk.
Asbestos has been banned for decades, but it's still thought to be present in around 1.5 million buildings across the country. Now, a removal has been taking place here in this old bakery, and I'm safe here behind this sealed viewing panel.
But those on the other side of it must be wearing full protective kit
to stop exposure to potentially lethal fibres.
Gary Clark once lived near Verwood in Dorset with his wife Debbie, but sadly she died aged just 48 from mesothelioma, a cancer directly linked to asbestos, leaving himself and his son to grieve with questions about where she was exposed to it.
It resulted in the loss of my wife. We'd known each other for 34 years. My son lost his mum, and that turned my life upside down and inside out. We don't really know where she was exposed to asbestos. We have a couple of theories, one of which is that she may have been exposed playing as a child in a farmer's barn with friends when she was about 10. Latency period's 40 years for mesothelioma, but we will never know.
Campaigners are now calling on the government to announce an action plan to remove it from all buildings within 4 decades.
People aren't getting as upset about this as I think they should be, because the time period in between inhaling asbestos fibres and developing illnesses such as mesothelioma can take anything up to 50 years.
So in the past, my clients were men and women who had worked directly with asbestos products, either in factories and shipyards. But now, in the last 15 years, I've seen a real sea change. My cases are completely different. They are nurses, doctors, people working in schools, because the fabrication, the building itself, has been constructed with asbestos products.
The government agency responsible for managing the risk, the Health and Safety Executive, says asbestos should be removed where it is in poor condition or cannot be safely managed. Where a building is in good condition, proactive removal of asbestos may create more exposure than it prevents. Back at the bakery, the contractors working here say the material is so widespread we will struggle to remove it all through conventional means.
Asbestos, by its nature, by the number of different building materials that it's contained in some cases buried deeply within the structure of a building, and it's not able to be removed prior to sort of final demolition. So I think we're always going to have some legacy asbestos to deal with in the future.
This once hailed wonder product still has a toxic legacy, one which we may never escape until all buildings containing it are no longer standing. Nick Smith, ITV News.
Next, the wet weather has disrupted the Ride Carnival on the Isle of Wight, but organisers say Saturday's illuminated carnival is still due to go ahead. Meanwhile, the start of the Bournemouth Air Festival was delayed, with some flying displays called off or, in the case of the Red Arrows, cut short. Over the weekend, 600,000 people are expected to watch the free 4-day event.
But the festival is facing an uncertain future. It generates around £30 million for the local economy, but BCP Council is facing a £44 million budget shortfall and says it needs to protect frontline services, and a decision about its future is yet to be made. Here's Richard Slee.
High winds and rain, not ideal conditions for an air show. But commentator George Bacon is ever hopeful. He's seen worse weather than this, so his rehearsals are underway.
From the Navy Wings establishment, now a charitable trust. There is a minimum that we all work to, all air shows, generally round about 1,000 feet and 5 kilometres visibility. Visibility is really important, even when there's no cloud. We're clearly nowhere near that yet at the moment, but we're hoping to get breaks from mid-afternoon onwards, and then we'll see some flying through till about 8 o'clock tonight.
It wasn't until 5:30 that we saw the first aircraft, and it was the Red Arrows, although the display was cut short due to the weather.
The Red Arrows are clearly famous for our flying displays and our fly pass, but actually we do a whole lot of ground engagements as well. So we'll have reds and blues on the ground this weekend, talking to young people, hopefully inspiring them, talking about science, technology, engineering and maths, and really talking to them about future careers and hopefully letting them look skywards at the displays and inspiring them to do bright things in their future.
But this year there are other dark clouds on the airshow horizon. BCP Council says it can't continue to fund the £400,000 it costs to put on this event.
It'll be reduced funding next year, and it will eventually have to fund itself. So we've convened businesses, hotels, professionals in the industry to actually come up with all the different ways we can improve the event. It's been going for 15 years. It's probably time for a refresh in the content, and it's time for a rethink about how it's funded. But we want to see it continue, but we can't do that at the expense of the taxpayer, not when we're having to make difficult decisions.
Would you miss the airshow if it didn't happen?
Yes, I would, really, yeah. It wants to happen, we want things on around the coastline, don't we? Everybody talks about money, but there's plenty of companies out there who are willing to sponsor things.
My son wants to be a pilot, and this is the kind of thing, this is educational, a fantastic way to get together. So yes, I think it would be a huge loss to this area.
Yeah, we're from Gloucester and we come up here every year, for 3 nights, so definitely be missed.
I've been coming every year since I was a kid, so it started off with just the Red Arrows, and then it's got bigger and bigger.
So would you miss it if it wasn't here?
Yes. I do enjoy coming here and watching it and seeing the Red Arrows flying around, and it's really nice, and it puts Bournemouth on the spot, it really puts them on the map.
The Red Arrows are always a crowd favourite, but how long they might feature at a Bournemouth International Air Festival will be decided by BCP Council later this year. Richard Slee, ITV News, Bournemouth.
So for the best. Now, they say, like beauty, that art is in the eye of the beholder, but what do you think about these? A pair of false teeth left outside a restaurant in Oxfordshire have gone on display to customers.
Yes, the dentures were spotted by a passerby on a windowsill of Las Chicas in Farringdon 2 weeks ago. Thinking someone would come back to claim them, restaurant owner Mariela Montenegro wrapped them up in toilet paper.
But nobody came forward, so she decided to put them on a display in a jewellery box, and customers seemed to be reacting very well to them.
At the beginning they were a bit like, that is so weird, but I said like, it's not weird, it's quirky. People at the restaurant don't see it because it's here downstairs in the bar, but people that come out the bar and see them, they find it hilarious. I think it's really, really funny, and they're all just making up stories that they don't know where, you know, who they belong to or what will happen to them, or yeah.
It's a little weird, so let's just move on.
They're fascinating false teeth.
Yes, it's a little weird. Now, did you spot the super blue moon last night? Well, if you didn't, the next one, sadly, is not due until 2037.
Well, unlike its name suggests, a blue moon is not named after the colour, but instead refers to the second full moon in a calendar month. And it was a particularly exciting sight for scientists and astronomers.
Well, we're joined by Sandra Voss at the Observatory Science Centre at Hurst-Monceau. Sandra, great to talk to you this evening. Just how significant an event was this?
Well, it's pretty rare to have a blue moon and a supermoon at the same time. Blue moons happen every couple of years or so, but to coincide with a supermoon is quite rare.
So, Sandra, it looked great last night, but if we missed it, can we see it again tonight?
Yeah, you should be fine. The peak of the actual supermoon, when it was really completely full, was 2:35 this morning. But yeah, go out tonight and have a look at it. It's going to be fabulous.
I mean, we have been sent some pictures from some of our viewers that they are really good, actually. Some lovely ones have come in. And I guess it's great from your point of view to see people getting into this kind of thing, whether this has sparked their interest for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just going out there and appreciating what is in the night sky is just fantastic for us, for everybody really. We saw an increase of it through the pandemic, and people are just getting more and more into it. And you just need to look up at the moon. You don't even need a telescope or binoculars, but just your own eyes, and it is just a spectacular sight.
And Sandra, talking about telescopes, you've got something quite impressive behind you. Tell us about that and how you got into astronomy.
This is our 26-inch refracting telescope here at the Observatory Science Centre. It's the 12th equal largest of its kind of telescope in the world, and it used to be up in Greenwich when it was the former home of the Royal Greenwich Observatory. I got into astronomy actually here doing a beginner's course way back in 2001, I think it was, and yeah, so ever since I've just been looking up at the sky and learning more and more and just reading around the subjects. It's fantastic, dynamic subject.
It's really interesting you talk about that beginner's course, because I know you've got an event this weekend where I guess people can come and get similar inspiration.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's our annual astronomy festival. It's been going now since 2005. It's fantastic fun for all families, amateur astronomers or just families getting into it, beginners and alike. We've got lectures, we've got trade stands, we've got astronomy societies who are really keen on talking to you about their astronomy and getting beginners involved and getting them really enthused about the whole thing. It's just a fantastic weekend. Great fundraising activity for the charity as well.
Just brilliant. It's really good to hear all about it, Sandra. We have to let you go, but brilliant to hear your passion for the subject, and thank you very much for telling us all about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So 8:20 if you want to see it tonight. I don't know whether you will though. James might. Here he is with your weather.
Whatever the weather, it always feels like home. Valent Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello there, good evening. Hope you got to see the super blue moon last night, because I don't think you're going to see much tonight. Risk of seeing some pretty hefty rain at times, but next few days things improving quite nicely. Lots more in the way of sunshine, and as a result getting warmer as we head through the next few days. Going to see a little bit of a risk of more rain courtesy of this little waving front in the channel, but then as we head into Friday, the low starts to move away. We get a ridge of high pressure building, so that's going to settle things down. and with a bit more sunshine, the temperatures start to rise too. So as far as this evening goes, might get a little bit of a break from the rain, a lot of cloud around and quite murky. This front just waving up and down a little bit. I think the likes of Oxfordshire probably staying dry, but there's a risk of seeing some fairly heavy showers at times overnight, maybe the odd rumble of thunder too in the Channel. Temperatures don't really fall that far compared to today, lows of around 13 to 16 Celsius. And then tomorrow, a bit of a slow start to the day, but the murk starting to lift and we'll see the cloud breaking up and something a little bit brighter into the afternoon. A risk of the odd shower, but should be pretty light and very, very scattered. So if you can stay in the sunshine, a light breeze, it's going to feel quite pleasant with highs of 21 or 22 Celsius. As to what happens next, well, like I say, bit of cloud around courtesy of a dying occlusion there, but more in the way of sunshine. Very, very light winds on Saturday, highs of 24, 25 Celsius. As far as Sunday goes, hopefully getting a little bit warmer still. A little bit misty to start though. That's it from me. Have a good evening.
Vaillant Heat Pumps and Boilers sponsor ITV Meridian Weather.
Basically, good riddance, August. Hello, September is the message.
It was quite nice, wasn't it?
That is it from us for the time being.
Yeah, I'll have your late news. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.